What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the High Frequency channel. Today we got a video about guns and gun control and all things gun related, man. Vice did a little segment on guns, and I thought it would be a nice opportunity for us to sink our teeth into it to kind of see what people are thinking, if they're even legit, or maybe is there delusion in any of this. Let's see why people think what they think about guns. So let's get into this.
And we're here today to talk about guns. It's a polarizing topic. It can be a controversial topic. And I think in some ways, arguing about what to do about guns and gun policy is about as American as apple pie. Raise your hand if you've ever shot a gun. Now, keep your hand up if you currently own a gun. All right? Keep your hand up if you own more than one gun. Keep your hand up if you own more than 10 guns. Keep your hand up if you own any AR-15s. How does shooting a gun make you feel?
I feel powerful. I feel confident.
Fun is
Pause. If you have anybody that says that when they shoot a gun, they feel powerful, me being a Second Amendment advocate, I'm saying this. I don't believe you should own a gun if you feel powerful when you shoot it. You should not feel power from a weapon. That is a very dangerous situation. That's like police that shoot people for no damn good reason. They felt too much power in that gun.
How does the Second Amendment affect the way that you view gun ownership as a right in this country?
I think my right to defend myself how I see fit comes from my creator, not the Second Amendment. A lot of people hinge on the Second Amendment and the verbiage, and we dissect it and we try to interpret it. But ultimately, every person on this planet was born with the right to defend themselves.
I don't have any skin in the game. I don't own guns. So as far as 2A goes, I do not feel like that is a right that I personally want to protect or defend.
I feel very conflicted about the Second Amendment. At the end of the day, when we talk...
This was interesting, dog, and I'm about to say something controversial. Obviously, this guy is homosexual. That's a given. But isn't it funny how when other people's rights are involved, since you don't own a gun, it has nothing to do with you. You have no interest in defending it. Even though my personal subjective opinion is that it's a good right to have. American citizens should have a Second Amendment right. But when it comes to your rights as a homosexual, you want people that are not homosexuals to defend your rights. That's pretty funny how that works out. I don't think I want to defend your rights. I guess that's what being American means, right? I get to choose what I do and don't want to go for. Yeah.
It's my right to defend myself. There is an ample amount of time between the time you call the police and the time that they arrive. It's my right to be able to protect myself in any way possible.
As a survivor of gun violence, I can't help but to think about how many people have been lost because of this perceived right or this outdated document. I feel like this debate around the Second Amendment is oversimplifying a really serious and complex issue. And unfortunately,
Plant. He's a plant. I'm calling it now. He's a plant. He is a plant.
there's too many privileged individuals having these debates, making these decisions who aren't feeling the pain of what gun violence in our country has done to us. We're in a world where we are literally out-arming who's supposed to be protecting us. And it's all coming from a place of fear. If we're thinking...
No, my guy. Let's listen. I don't know what your name is, Afro guy, but I'm going to talk to you directly, okay? You're a plant, all right? And you're giving your plantiness. It's all over your face. We're living in a world where we are outgunned. We are outgunning those who are supposed to protect us. Now, I'm assuming that you're speaking to this police military situation, but the point of the Second Amendment is because the people that are supposed to protect you is yourself. You're not supposed to depend on the military or the police to protect you. You're supposed to be able to depend on yourself, however. And if you need to form a well-regulated militia to protect your neighborhood, maybe, or to protect the American dream from tyranny, maybe, we are not outgunning those who are supposed to protect us. That was a fallacy that you just spit all over this channel right now. I mean, we're gonna continue. We're gonna continue. You gotta listen to what they saying.
Thinking about how to protect our homes or to protect our families, there are better, lower risk ways to do that. And as someone who's been shot, having a gun on me would have not saved my life. If anything, it would have cost me my life because it gives you this false concept of confidence in a life or death situation when your first instinct should be to flee or evade.
That should always be your first instinct, even when you are armed, bro. But if you are trapped in a corner, right, you need to be able to defend yourself. If someone tries to enter your home, you need to be able to defend yourself. If your government tries to go radical, you need to be able to defend yourself. All of these situations do call. You pulling a weapon out should never be your first course of action. It never should be. But you have to be able to defend yourself. And that's why I said what the first woman said was how when she said, oh, you feel power when you have a gun. That's a dangerous combination because you should never be referring back to the gun to save you. But you should have it available for you, right? You gotta be in the moment. You gotta exercise your best judgment in the moment. And if you don't train with your weapon, you're going to feel power from it. Once you train with it and you become extra familiar with it, it's just like another piece of clothing. Anyway, let's not get off subject.
Hear your ideas about other cost-effective ways to defend yourself.
Well, when we think about defending your home or your body or from harm or assault, the most impactful thing you can have is a known deterrent. A gun is not a known deterrent. And so when we think about keeping our home safe, specifically simple things like having a dog, having the lights on, having a fence, having a security system, a security camera, is more effective at protecting your homes.
What do you guys think are actual, like, good ideas in terms of gun regulation, if any?
The question I have is, are we going after the guns or are we going after the people that are using them illegally? The second something happens, they don't talk about the person that committed the crime, but if someone's not on the opposite side of the gun, it will never go off unless the trigger is pulled. And I think there needs to be more accountability, whether legally or not legally used. There needs to be accountability for people to say, wait a minute, if I do something really dumb with this or hurt somebody, I might not see the light of day for a while.
We've created this image in America, and I partially blame the media, that violence in black communities is a result of criminal activity, when in reality, most situations are interpersonal conflicts that are not connected to another felony. And that false sense of having a firearm will make me safer turns what would have been a fist fight, an argument, into something that causes someone their life.
You move your finger and you end a human life. That's a responsibility that we should take a lot more seriously in this country. You get convicted of domestic violence. No guns for you. Universal background checks, I think, would be a great idea. And I think the idea that we don't treat something that was created for killing people with that kind of respect is a really weird disconnect in this country.
I think a big problem with people have with, like, universal background.
Where do they not do backgrounds? I'm in Texas. We still get backgrounds. I don't understand why people think that there's gun owners that don't get backgrounds. Where is this happening? I could be out of touch. It could be me. I could be out of touch and not know about other state laws and stuff. But even in Texas, bro, which is known for its gun laws to be very 1776-ish, right? We still, no matter where you get a shotgun, a general firearm, a rifle, a pistol, doesn't matter if you get, it doesn't matter. You got to get a background check done, regardless. What are they talking about? Please help me out in the comments. Let me know in the comments if you live in a state where you don't even need to get a background check.
Background checks, requiring regulation and accreditation. I teach and I give out certificates and all that, but states have been sued for the fact that they won't give it to BIPOC. They won't give it to poor people. They won't give these rights to trans people. You start denying these rights and they're like, oh, well, we regulate this. but we only give it to the rich and we only give it to the well-connected, right? And then on the other side, we don't make education available to all these people that can't afford it. Like, why isn't it free? Why can't you go down to City Hall and take a class on how to teach your kids about firearm safety?
That is a great point. That is it's in the Constitution. Why don't we teach it?
Kind of gotten rid of all of that. We've kind of moved to an abstinence-only education culture.
A lot of folks here say that they own guns as a self-defense tool. How do we feel about that?
Shit is so bleak in America. Like, I don't blame people for feeling unsafe. Everyone here is concerned with survival. Everyone who picks up a gun is concerned with survival. There is this sense of despair in America when it comes to resource scarcity, food scarcity, housing scarcity, scarcity of care. People do not resort to terrible things when they have support, when they have a community, when they feel like their survival is not at stake.
In America, the two solutions that are introduced are too heavily focused on the individual and the gun. But a solution we never introduce is regulating the gun industry and the profiteers of massive amount of weapons being introduced into America. And I think that's something that in America we're not talking about. We're not talking.
I'm not understanding her argument. She's saying that we're not regulating the gun makers. Like, why would we need to regulate them? You all have a cell phone, okay? All of us have a cell phone. All of us. Having a cell phone is so important that the government says, if you don't have one, I'll give you one for free. Obama phone. That device is more of a weapon of mass destruction than a single person with a gun. If something is to be regulated, why not say, why isn't Apple and Samsung being regulated with how many phones they can produce? Because these things are so dangerous. The screen itself is patented to control your mind. I'm not understanding her argument. And this is where I'm like, are people in touch or detached from the question at hand? The first lady explained, yes, you know, it's bleak in America. You know, there's this underlying fear of survival, right? You having to worry about your survival all the time because scarcity, which I can understand that. Do I agree with it? Not necessarily, but I can understand that. But this chick's talking about regulating the gun manufacturers, and that has nothing to do with anything. Am I tripping? I might be tripping, yo.
Talking about how do we hold the profiteers, the gun capitalists accountable in this conversation.
We forget to talk about white nationalism and the fact that this country was a settler colonial country based on taking land from indigenous people and suppressing enslaved people. Gun conversation, as soon as you wade into it, is so frickin' racist. It's really misogynistic, and when we really start to zoom in on
Why y'all gonna show the black dude? Why they gonna say racist and show the black dude? Hey, that dude's a plant, dog. That look like a wig.
on this stuff, we find levers. We can better identify where threats come from, what kinds of discourse really start to put us in danger. And actually, the gun industry lobbies a lot and pays for the campaigns of a lot of people who condone this kind of culture. And so that's one lever in which I think we need to be put a lot more scrutiny on.
Look at where the money in the communities is going already, and that's law enforcement, who want more money and more weapons to make everyone safer, inflated crime statistics, whatever it takes. Because sadly, this works in elections. It works on parents. It works on families who don't know what else to do. But there are so many places to put money in a community, and we are starving those places out of existence.
I want to ask Joey.
I absolutely agree with what he just said. Absolutely agree. There is so many opportunities to put money back into these communities, and it's being funneled into the pockets of people that are they're just evil, man. And the pieces that are being starved can literally solve the problems that some of these communities are having. Like if y'all don't know already, man, look, I grew up homeless. I grew up in the streets. I grew up sleeping in cars. I grew up sleeping in shelters and stuff all the time, bro. And so like I got the opportunity as a child to see the world for what it truly can be, bro. At its rock bottom core. Now, when you don't have that, in my words, opportunity, then you got to disconnect, right, with what is actually going on in communities with the majority of people. We're not talking about the small percentage that's doing well and goes and votes. You know what I'm saying? So they're the representation of that community. We're talking about the actual people, bro. They ain't got time to vote. They don't care about it because all they've seen, don't matter what you get, Democrat or Republican, they still get the short end of the stick. They're still in the same spot. So to them, it doesn't matter about voting. It doesn't. Because those are the ants to the crickets. And if the ants got together to decide what was going to happen, the crickets would be in trouble. Right? And so the crickets just continue to tell the ants that they're going to take care of them and blah, blah, blah. But they never do. It's just a facade to get them to shut up and not come together or whatever the case may be. But I really do think that he's on to a lot. It's very important to get people in position to distribute money in communities and places it needs to go that are deaf to the lobbyists that come to them and say, hey, we're going to dump this money in your pocket if you decide to sway these policies this way or whatever it may be. That's a good point. It's a valid point.
As a police officer, when you hear this group talking about cops getting money that they might not put to good use, how does that sit with you?
You know, it's hard. No one sees what police officers are doing every single day. They hear a news clip, they get 10 seconds of what happened in a 5-minute situation right off the bat. Do I think we need to change and move ahead with the times? 100%. You can't go today with what happened 20 years ago, but you can't also criticize all the time and say, well, take away cops altogether, because that's not going to work.
I did not say that cops should be taken away altogether. This is an area that resists reform, resists regulation. We don't get to see the inner workings of everything. We can give cops body cams, but we can't make them switch them on. And any government body that refuses to be regulated, that resists transparency, should not be increasingly armed, should not be increasingly funded. If you want respect, transparency is the way. If you want people to trust
Agreed.
you have to show them why you're trustworthy. But we need so much more from police.
There's a lot of oversight and accountability that I don't see with the police. And police are people, you know, people have the full range of what they're capable of. And we have seen enough evidence that there are police officers who abuse that power. And I think that the real fact that there is no oversight and ability to ensure that they are doing their jobs well is a real problem with people who are licensed to kill.
But that's false, though. You would make it seem like cops are running rampant. There's a lot more oversight than people know, whether it's federally, city-wise, and there are bad apples, and there's people out there that should not be police officers, and there's nothing more than a good cop that doesn't want a bad cop on the street. The oversight, there's a lot more than people know.
But we have to take everyone's word for it, though, from inside.
I don't know what that means.
I'm saying that you're saying that there's lots of oversight. But again, we just have to believe that, because anytime someone from outside attempts to explore that, it's obstruction 100% of the way.
I wouldn't agree with that.
I do not believe that police can in any means provide security and safety for us. And a huge part of, wanting to own guns is an aspect of, police failing us. And so to suggest that it's anecdotals, that it's just a couple of bad apples within the system is completely incorrect. We have seen the system fail people and fail to really protect individuals. And so this suggestion that we can fund both, that we can fund both our sense of security and our sense of safety, as well as funding the police departments, is completely false, because a huge aspect of our safety being a detriment is, in fact, the police state's initiatives.
What changes would make a difference in the real world, practically speaking? Kendra, I want to hear.
I got you. I could answer that question right now. What changes would make a difference in the real world? Here's what would make a difference in the real world. First and foremost, everybody would have to serve with a weapon. At least a year or two. everybody would have to serve and use a weapon, right? I think I would even take it a step further and say that it would be necessary for every home, every citizen in America to own a weapon, because I want my citizens to be able to protect their country from foreign invaders and domestic invaders. I got another solution, another thing to add to that. I think that talking about and having gun safety classes open, available as a tax funded thing, free for the citizens, great. I think that children should be taught gun safety. Okay? I think that we can do more for our communities, as they stated, as far as dumping money into the communities, making them better places to live, making more opportunity available in our communities, and giving people a better sense of security in them so that they wouldn't feel so unsafe in the places that they are. Because let's keep it real, bro. If we go to damn Chicago, like O Block or something, in Illinois, you ain't gonna feel too goddamn safe without a weapon. And even then, you still not gonna feel safe, right? That community has been starved. There's so many things that you can do. It's probably like not even worth asking the question. It's probably more like, let's put a list together and start tackling the list. Call me crazy.
Hear your thoughts on this?
I'm a range safety officer, and as long as I've worked on the range, I have seen police come there and train once, right before their qual, or not even, they only come for their qualification. And I have some friends that they train pretty often, but the vast majority, I outshoot them by hundreds of rounds, and I just don't understand that. I do situational training, I do verbal judo so that I know how to de-escalate situations when I encounter them, and I feel like that's what the police force is missing. They need that consistent training with current events that are going on, with different situations, with their firearms, so that they can better protect us. That's what they're there for, and there's no getting rid of them.
I disagree. The firearm is the last tool a police officer uses. I hope Joey agrees. If they're only spending one day at the range, and because they only think they're going to use their gun that little, and they're spending all their time training de-escalation and learning about the community and being a part of it, I'm fine with that.
But I did mention de-escalation.
No, you mentioned it for yourself, though.
No,
for
for police, they need.
Police officers don't learn de-escalation at the...
I don't even want to hear what he's got to say now, because he didn't listen to what she said. She said, I do verbal judo, talking about de-escalation, and I think that that's something that the police need to focus on more. She just said that.
I do situational training. I do verbal judo so that I know how to de-escalate situations when I encounter them, and I feel like that's what the police force is missing.
Humans, bro.
Also, really think there needs to be accountability injected into this, where if a cop does something ranging from lightly illegal to murder, there should be accountability for that. And I think the strange thing I see is this sort of closing ranks around these bad apples, even though there's also an acknowledgement that they exist. And I think people will be far less likely to look at police with fear if they understand that if that cop does something they're not supposed to, there's accountability. I mean, Joey said he does not want those people walking around. And I suspect that that is a pretty common view, and I don't know why those cops are protected then.
Right now, a lot of the conversation.
I absolutely agree with that, and I think most people do. The qualified immunity thing is just, oh my gosh, it's just toxic as hell for the police to even have that. I think that when police make decisions as far as taking a life or whatever, there should be a full investigation every time that has to happen to ensure that the police officers' other decisions or other options were exhausted or at least exacerbated before taking the life of somebody else. Like if it's a situation where they pull up on a bank robbery, obviously I don't want them and to like talk them down if the bank robbers are out there like aiming weapons at them and shooting at them. Obviously I want the police to shoot back at them. Like that's should go without saying. But what I'm saying is, it's a traffic stop and somebody reaches down to grab something, right? it shouldn't be assumed that that person is grabbing a weapon. You shouldn't be standing behind a person, neither. The police have this thing where they're very hard to trust. They have things that they train on that make them hard to trust as an individual, and they're not held accountable for their actions, and therefore it makes it even harder for them to trust. My simple example is when they come stop you at a simple traffic stop, they stand by the pillar of your doors or your car, and you can't see them. You have to turn so far. I have an eye issue, and I can't even look at police with both eyes, and they always think I'm like drunk or something. I'm like, dude, I have an eye issue. And so I'm sitting here and I'm wondering, like, why wouldn't it be smarter for you as the officer to stand by my side mirror? I can see you easier as the citizen, right? And you can see me fully. You don't have to guess if I'm getting my seatbelt. You don't got to guess. The fact that you have your hand on your gun when you walk up. Like, dude, you guys have created the environment that we're in. The police initially were put together to wrangle slaves. That was literally their purpose, and they've been around ever since. If slavery's gone, why are the police still around? We should have another force, right? I don't know. That's another conversation. But if slavery's not gone, the police should still be here. And I think that's really more of what it is. Like, I believe that people are still slaves to this day. They've just been enslaved in a different way. Their minds have been enslaved. And the police are this sense of enforcement, or this show of power from the uppers to let the average citizen know, like, hey, you don't know shit. You don't run nothing. You ain't got nothing. And, they're not held accountable for anything because they are moving under the power of the people that want them to be out there doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing. So that's all I got for this one, y'all. I think that it was a great video. There's a lot left to this video. We only got into a little bit. If you want us to get into it more, comment down below that you want to see more of this video. But make sure that you also think about what it is that it means to own a gun. It's not a thing where you want to do harm to somebody. It's more of there's people out there that are willing to harm you. And until the world has changed where we don't harm each other as a species anymore, I personally think that we do need guns. We need a way to protect ourselves until the world changes. Now, once it comes to the point where we don't need to protect ourselves from each other, then we can abolish weapons. But until that time, man, stay dangerous. I love you. Peace. New era.
I'm feeling quite bad, so take another token. Yeah, there's jokers all around me. I'm feeling quite bad, so take another token. Yeah, there's jokers all around me.